everybody. I'm so excited to welcome you to meet my friend Lisa Whitfield, who is the proud owner of the brand new yarn store For Ewe, an inclusive fiber community. Hopefully I got that right, Lisa. And we are, yay, okay. And we are gonna have a chat, learning a little bit more about Lisa and about her new store. And I'm really excited to have her joining us. Welcome, Lisa.
Thank you for having me, Marie. I appreciate it.
It's so fun to have you here. So I think we should talk about the shop first, because that's of course what everyone's going to be excited about. And then I want to dig into a little bit of your backstory with knitting. But you just opened a yarn store. What was that like?
I know, I'm still trying to get past that. What was it like? You know, it was an idea for a really, really long time. It was an idea that started sometime in 2018. Let's just say I was a little uncomfortable in my working environment at the time. We'll leave it there.
Okay.
And I just thought, you know, I love to knit and I love knitters and crocheters, and I love the whole vibe of a yarn shop. Wouldn't it be fun if ... And I mentioned it to my husband at one point and he went, I don't know. And I know him well enough to know that he needed to be convinced. I need to come to him with like a full PowerPoint.
That's fair.
Yeah, totally fair. Totally fair. He had worked in retail before, so I knew he understood. Yeah. And so gradually over time, it fleshed itself out as an idea. It wasn't just, oh, I'm going to open a yarn shop and folks are just going to automatically come. It sort of coincided with the whole discussion that was going on in the fiber community about people of color and our experiences, and just sort of some of the backlash from that, and you know, just the whole atmosphere of the time. Right. And I thought to myself, wouldn't it be great if I had a shop where everybody could feel welcome, where everybody could come in and see a smiling face and feel like it didn't matter who they loved, it didn't matter what color their skin was, it didn't matter what their pronouns were. They could just come and be welcome and be warmly welcomed and feel safe. And so that became the concept of what I wanted in terms of customers. And then the concept sort of broadened to what is the way that most people feel the most comfortable. And that is if they see themselves represented.
Amen. Yes, absolutely.
So it was more than just who I wanted to come in. It was who I wanted to represent in my shop. Yes. So a lot of what I'm doing, it's not so much the bigger brands, although I know everybody loves the bigger brands and I love them too.
Yeah.
But I wanted to work with smaller companies, independent companies, where I could buy from women who own their own businesses, some of them bigger and some of them really small and needed help to thrive, and I could bring their product into my shop. I wanted to work with women of color, particularly because I'm a woman of color. I wanted to work with folks from the LGBTQIA community because I want to be able to say to folks who walk in the door, this is a yarn made by folks like you. You know, if they were of the same, you know, community. Right. So I just wanted to represent people who weren't necessarily being held up quite as often or quite as much.
That's such an amazing concept. And it seems so common sense. Like, of course we should have spaces like that. And they were sorely lacking. And so it's wonderful that you've not only, you know, embrace that, but like really made that your mission in your store to make sure that you are practicing what you preach and you're, you know, making that very, very obvious, because then, like you said, you know, people seeing themselves represented in a space and just immediately knowing, oh, I belong here, I'm welcome here. Like that's so important. When did you open your doors?
I opened on April 11th this year. So it hasn't even officially been 2 months.
Oh my gosh.
But I opened while the college students were still here, because I live, oh, you were going to ask me this.
Yeah, where are you located?
Ohio. I live in Oberlin, Ohio, which is the home of Oberlin College and Conservatory, of which I am an alumna. I moved back here from New York City about 14 years ago. And I have one child in graduate school and one child that has graduated high school, but is still trying to figure out what's what. So I don't have little kids anymore. This was the time where I could do something for me and open my own business. So the college students, before they left campus, were coming here, and they told me, a few of them told me, if you see the logo for my shop, the yarn ball at the top has a crochet hook and a knitting needle, and it's a rainbow.
Oh.
And a lot of the kids came and said, I knew I would be safe because I saw your logo.
Oh.
And that,
yeah,
that's my mission. That's what I want. I want people to say they feel safe, they feel welcome, they feel a warm embrace when they come in, because that's what I try to give everyone who comes through the door.
Oh, I love this so much. And I just think that inclusivity and that connection and that community that's really truly welcoming is just so important. And I have always felt like knitting and just crafts and making in general just touches so many people across every diverse community, every age group, you know, every gender. Like it's not exclusive to one group. And so it is important to make sure that everyone feels like it's accessible to them and that everyone knows there's a space for them. I just think that's so beautiful that that's what you're doing. So 2 months you've had it open. How long did it actually take to get the store open? I mean, I know a little bit of, you know, behind the scenes in having worked for a shop and knowing others who started them. So I know it's not like quick and easy. A lot of people probably think, I love to knit, I'm going to open a store. And like, there's a lot to it. Like, how long did you have to get everything ready?
There is a whole lot to it. If I go all the way back, I think the first thing I did was ask the question in the community, hey, if I opened a yarn store, would you come?
Yeah.
And that was probably 3 years ago. So from there, and I know you were one of the first people to join my Facebook group. So I had my Facebook group, and you know, it was a few people and more and more and more.
Yeah. And
then eventually I started an Instagram presence and I was talking about it more. And then I actually went and worked in a yarn store for 1.5 years because I knew I needed the experience how to do the things.
Yeah.
So I was there doing the things and learning the things and seeing how the operations went. So that was probably the most important thing that I did prior to opening my store, was to work for another local yarn shop. I worked for, and I'm going to say because I love these ladies and they're amazing, I worked for Beth and Pam over at Around the Table Yarns in Shaker Heights. They are wonderful, Beth Billings and Pam Berkson. And I love them. They gave me everything I needed. They are still here to support me. And I learned tremendous amounts of stuff from them just by watching and listening and learning. And so eventually they kicked me out of the nest. They said, it's time for you to fly, baby bird. And that was in October. In December, I said, you know, I really want to open in April. I found a space at the end of January, and I maxed out a credit card and a home equity line, and I did it all myself because I didn't have time to get the financing.
Yeah.
And I opened in April.
Oh my gosh. I am so impressed, number one, but I think it was so wise of you to know what you didn't know, because I've seen so many people open yarn stores, and honestly, you know, more power to anybody that has that calling, but I've seen many people open them that did not ever work in one. And it is such an eye-opener when you get into this store and you're like, oh, this does not go like I was there's just things that happen in a yarn store that you don't realize are going to happen until you work in one. And it's a very different experience. So that's brilliant that you did that. And how wonderful to have some mentors locally that could be generous with their knowledge and, you know, kind of allow you that space to learn before you opened your own shop. So that's really cool. That's really cool. I hope I don't know if I'll get to Ohio, but if I do, I'm going to come see your shop.
Please do. I hope you will. That would be absolutely great. I did want to say one other thing. There is And I know that the Small Business Administration has development corporations all over the country, but the one here in Lorain County, Ohio was so good. The classes are amazing. And I had a mentor, and I've worked with people looked over my business plan, people who taught me about numbers, which scare me to death. But I got great advice. The resources are out here, and they're amazing resources, and most of them are free. So I feel like I did a lot. It was my dream. It was my passion, but I had a lot of help because I made myself open to the help. And if people are watching you and want to do something like this, there's help out there. And our community, okay, we're like any other community. They're nice people, there aren't nice people, but there are a lot of folks out here who want to help, who want to do things. And if you need help, just ask for it, be open to it.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, there's so many resources. And I think most people that want to start a new business don't even know where to start or where to look. And so I think you've given some really good ideas. I don't know if we'll have anybody watching that has that like secret wish to open a yarn store, although probably all of us do for a minute. I did for a minute until I worked in one, and I was like, never mind. I don't want to do that.
I understand. There are days where I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot about those days.
What have I done? It's just a lot. It is a lot. And sometimes you're not just selling yarn, you're also a therapist, and hospitality. You're lots of things. It's wearing many hats. So how did you actually get into knitting? I've never heard your knitting origin story, so I love to hear those. Tell me how you learned.
Sure. I will say that being a fabric and fiber crafter runs in my family. Okay. My grandmother, who I was raised with, was a master seamstress, and she worked for a factory that made comforters that you would find at Macy's and the big department stores. And so I watched her sew, and she taught me how to crochet when I was about 5, probably. I always wanted to learn how to knit, but nobody in my house knit enough to be able to teach me. So one day this is the silliest story. I was in 6th grade in Philadelphia, where I grew up. I was on the bus, and it was a very crowded bus, I remember. And I managed to get a seat next to a woman who was knitting. And I must have stared at her like they were magic wands. They were amazing. And I was just, it was like I was sucked down into this rabbit hole. I needed to know what she was doing, but I was too shy to ask. And she must have seen me, and she reached in her bag and took out a spare pair of needles and some scrap yarn. And she showed me how to cast on, and she showed me the knit stitch.
Oh my gosh, this is my favorite story ever. I love this so much.
I was 11 years old. Unfortunately, I never learned how to purl. I learned garter stitch, which was very, very important. I didn't learn how to purl, and I didn't learn how to bind off. And, I was 11. I didn't have my own money or anything. And my parents, they weren't interested in giving me that stuff. So I found some kitchen twine and 2 really sharp pencils and recreated what she had taught me. And so I've been knitting on and off since I was 11 years old. And the last time that I really fell into it deeply was in 2016, when my mother was very, very ill. And I was actually knitting at her bedside when she passed away. And knitting became therapy for me. It became grief counseling. It became comfort. It became, something for me to do with my hands to take my mind off of the crazy. And I'm really happy to share that with other people.
I love that you're able to talk about that kind of experience with your knitting, because I feel so strongly that we can channel a lot of what we're processing in our minds as we're knitting. Kind of like, I feel like I'm sort of untangling it in my head and sorting it out on the needles, and have knit through, celebrations, but also grief and interesting the way that knitting allows us to kind of cope and process and self-soothe in a way when things are so difficult. And it's, I love that that is something that we can have with us to provide comfort in really trying times. And, you know, a lot of times just the stress of what's happening in the world that's so discouraging, I will find myself just coping in a way with knitting because it allows me to feel like, I think creation in general, like creating something is always so positive, and it kind of helps us feel like we're doing something when we can't really do anything, you know? And I love that. And I also I love that that woman on the bus took the time to teach you. I think so many of us as knitters have opportunities in our lives where someone's watching us and someone's asking that question, and we have an opportunity to teach. And I love that we get the chance to pass that on. That's so sweet. And I could totally visualize you with twine and sharp pencils trying to recreate. How long did it take you to finally learn to purl?
I have to be honest, I can't remember exactly when it happened. When I finally got old enough and had enough money that I could go, I would take classes and, you know, go to little knitting circles and stuff. But it took me a while to get good at it and to remember. It's like, oh, I forgot how to cast on. I got to remember how to do that again. And this is all before YouTube. This is all before people were writing really good, well illustrated books on how to knit. So this was a while ago, and so it took me a while, but I got good at it eventually.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the thing. We all come at this at different times, and I learned it at about 10 or 11 as well. I did learn, thankfully, how to knit and purl. That really worked out because it was my grandma, and she was with me for a while to do that. But interesting how so many people in my community, they either have knit since a child, or they literally just decided to learn at age, 68. And now they're just knitting circles around everybody we know. So we all kind of come to it in our own time, and then eventually develop, those skills. And you were talking about the old patterns. I too learned to knit for the internet. And I'll say those old patterns and old books left a lot to the imagination. Like, you really had to, like, I always joke that there were these patterns for like a jacket, a top, and a skirt, and you got like 3 paragraphs, and that's all you got to knit them. There's like no information. I mean, so little information that I don't know how anybody made things. And now, of course, we've got, I write a pattern and it's like 14 pages long because I put all this extra stuff in there. But boy, we had to really work for it back in the day.
And I'm glad that when I really got serious about knitting, it was around the time that the patterns were much more explicit, because I didn't have that wealth of, accumulated knowledge. And it's just like, what do you mean just increase every other row for this many, and then it's every row for this many, and then blah, blah, blah. I need, write it out, put a chart, do something.
I know, right? There was always this joke that knitters would get to the spot in a pattern where it would say at the same time, so you're doing all this, and then at the same time do all of this, and they're always like, no, it's too many things, like, please simplify it, spell it out, it's a lot. Oh my gosh. So in your store, I know I've been watching this process, like you said, since you first opened your Facebook group. So I have been watching and admiring what you're up to over there. And I've been looking at some of the fun brands that you're carrying. I'm so excited for people to explore your shop. So you do sell online too, correct?
I do sell online. The website is For Ewe, FOR-EWE.com. Actually, the knitting story is on the website. It's on the About Me page or the About Us page. And I really go through my whole vision and mission for the store, like you and I spoke about at the beginning. But I'm starting to do classes this month. I'm starting a Learn to Knit class. Yay. I'm starting a Knitalong with a simple market bag made out of cotton yarn, something everybody can use.
Yes.
And I've started a knit night that happens it's a craft night. I have to get out of saying knit when I know there are crocheters who show up. I inclusive language, Lisa, come on. But it's every other Wednesday. like clockwork, folks are there. It really is starting to feel like a community. I have what I like to call a lot of repeat offenders.
Oh,
And
well,
I
we
love
love those.
Oh yeah, we love the repeat offenders. They're great.
Oh, that's so wonderful.
So
So
they're happy. They like it here.
yeah, I mean,
Sorry.
they obviously feel welcome, and that was your whole point, was for people to be. I'm a big believer in community, and that is the kind of the core foundation of all the work that I do. And I love whenever I find someone else who has that real heart for community, because I think that can be so lacking. I mean, we have wonderful online spaces, and I love the access that the virtual world gives us, but without that community thread running through it, it's just not, it doesn't mean as much. And I think that, you having an online presence for your store, you can be the home yarn shop for people that don't even live in your town. And that's one of my favorite things. So I know it's going to be impossible to pick a favorite yarn, but tell me so first, you don't necessarily have to say a brand if that's too hard, because I know that can be really challenging, but how about this? Superwash or non-superwash? What's your favorite? You can't pick either.
Marie. I mean, that's a hard question.
Do you like both? Some people love both.
I totally like both. Superwash has a particular feel to it.
Yes.
And sometimes when you just want to get through a project, it moves faster. Superwash moves faster on the needles. But I've really started to get into blends with Romney and Corriedale and Rambouillet. I love toothy yarn. I know not everybody does.
You're a girl after my own heart.
Yarn.
I love that too. But also, Superwash has those vibrant colors and beautiful, and like you said, like it moves fast on the needles, and there's a place for it. And I love it for shawls because they just are so drapey and smooth. But that crunchy, earthy wool, I love too. So fiber, do you have any favorite? We're talking about kind of some toothy wools, but do you have any other fibers that you especially enjoy working with? Like, do you like plant fibers?
I was just going to say, I'm discovering a love for bamboo and cotton together. Ooh. I really love cotton yarn. I like cotton linen blends. I like how they wear. They're very cozy no, not cozy because that's like warm, but they're comfortable. They feel good on the skin, and in the heat and humidity, you don't feel like you're wearing something sopping wet. You feel like you're wearing something that breathes. So I'm starting to really enjoy making summer tops and using those cotton linen, cotton bamboo blends. That I really enjoy.
Do you have any, well, just real quick, do you have any cotton linen blends or bamboo blends that you love to recommend? Because a lot of my customers are looking for those, and you'll have to let us know which ones they could find at your shop.
Oh, sounds like a plan.
Okay.
I really love all of the Kelborn Woolens yarns, and their cotton linen blend is called Mojave. I love the colors. I love the feel of the yarn. I love the drape, how it knits up. It's absolutely stunning, and I would recommend that, and I do carry it. And the cotton bamboo is just bamboo pop from Universal.
Yeah,
it's
bamboo pop.
Beautiful colors. Gorgeous colors, like crazy pretty colors. I love it. And I recommend that to a lot of folks who I know who have allergies and just can't use animal fiber.
Yeah, those are both great. I haven't actually knit with Mojave, but I love the Kelborn line. And yes. I agree about bamboo pop. It's so smooth, and the drape is lovely, and it just really light. For those of us in a certain age group that might be getting the vapors, it's nice to have cooler yarns. So people are seeing more of those from me lately.
Yeah, you and I, we understand each other. Yeah.
One of those
I definitely need things to breathe. It's a good thing that they breathe.
Gotta breathe. I love it. So how about needles? What do you like? Bamboo needles, metal needles? What do you love to use?
I have both in the store. When I was a younger knitter, not necessarily in age, but in experience, I liked wood and bamboo needles better because I had the fear that so many beginning knitters have that the stitch is going to slide off.
Yeah.
And the great thing about bamboo is that when I'm working with people who haven't knitted, say, if you're worried about your stitches, get the bamboo, they're not going anywhere. I still like wood needles, and I've been actually playing with some lantern moon needles that I'm debating whether or not I want to carry in the shop. But they're beautiful and they really do knit well. I'm enjoying them. Push comes to shove, I'm a metal needle person. I really love metal needles because I'm at a stage of my own knitting where I knit fast enough that I can use metal needles. I'm not worried about dropping stitches, and they just go. They just go. And I like to just be able to go.
I'm with you. I like to get to the part. I know people are always like, no, so much stockinette. But like for me, once I can just get cruising along, I love the flow with the metal needles. I knit socks on wooden needles though, because with little double point needles, they stay in better. The metal double points like fall out more easily. But
Right.
But yeah, I'm with you. I definitely used more of the wood and bamboo needles earlier in my knitting experience. And then now I mostly prefer the metal, but also some of it's about the fibers that people knit with. I found that certain fiber feels more comfortable to certain people on different kinds of needles as well. So fun. So, okay. So you've been open for not even 2 months. I just cannot believe that.
It's 8 weeks. I just finished week 8.
Week 8, you're doing so great for just finishing week 8. So tell us where we can, I mean, some people will be watching this video way later, but for those watching it new, do you have any fun events coming up at your shop that people should be on the lookout for?
Well, this coming Saturday is Worldwide Knit in Public Day.
Yay!
So my shop is in an old house in it was founded in the 1830s. This house was built in about the 1870s, but it has a front lawn and a front porch. So it's bring your own blanket or chair, and we're going to sit outside. It's supposed to be lovely weather, not too hot. And I've invited folks to just come for the whole day, bring a picnic if they want, and just come and knit in public together, crochet, if you want to bring needlepoint, whatever needle art you want to bring. So we have people coming for that. I might, pull together a few little goodies for refreshments. What else am I doing? I have my Learn to class starts on June 18th. That's our first meeting. I'm going to do the first one only in person, but eventually I'm wondering if maybe I could do something on Zoom, because I know a lot of people do. And I like to talk to people, and it doesn't matter if it's on Zoom or in person. So we'll see if there's interest.
I love that. Well, we're so excited to get to know more about you, Lisa, and learn more about your store. I wish you all the success in the world. I'm so excited that you're out there and you're doing what you're doing and making a space for every knitter from every walk of life. It's so important for us to have a space where everyone feels welcome. And I'm so grateful that you're there. And we are really excited to continue to support you. So we'll be keeping an eye on you and seeing what's up next at For Ewe, an inclusive yarn community. And is it an inclusive yarn community? Did I put an extra word in there?
It's okay. It's an inclusive fiber community.
Fiber community. I was like, I have a feeling I said that wrong, but I can't remember which part I messed up. An inclusive fiber community.
It's okay.
Thank you so much for being here, Lisa. I really appreciate your time, and we look forward to connecting with you online.
Thank you for having me, Marie. It's been a pleasure to talk to you.